you see the nature of the incredible selectivity in the appeals courts by who they are enforcing selective prosecution on behalf of, as we saw in the Texas Court of Appeals this week.
So this case is, they said it's a migrant or an illegal alien.
Yeah, so it's
a non-resident.
The governor launched Operation Lone Star because the Biden administration, as Robert Kennedy has also acknowledged, is completely collapsed on enforcing the border. And so what happened is Texas launched Operation Lone Star to at least lock up some of the more egregious illegal immigrants present on criminal trespass grounds. They don't have facilities to lock up women. So because overwhelmingly it was men, because men pose the greatest risk in terms of other criminal behaviors historically, men commit 80 to 90% of crimes, they targeted illegal immigrant men who are criminally trespassing. Texas Court of Appeals says, you can't do that because you're not locking up women. And Texas is like, we don't have facilities to lock up the women because of how many men are already coming over and because of the cost of this already.
The one question I had, I didn't read I didn't get to this particular detail. I couldn't find it. What was the nature of the criminal trespass? Is it like innocuous criminal trespass?
No, it's criminal trespass. It's someone who's legally present in a place they're not legally present to right to be.
Okay.
And it was a sort of multi-level it's a way of enforcing immigration law that doesn't run afoul of the federal government's preemption in that capacity.
Okay.
And what the lefty lawyers came up with is, well, you better lock up the women too, or you can't lock up the men. And the Texas Court of Appeals agreed.
Well, Texas said they admitted the selective prosecution on men, not on this individual in particular. They admitted it. The rationale was we don't have the facilities for locking up women.
We don't have. We would have to spend a bunch of money for specialized detention facilities for women, and we don't have that. That didn't make sense within our resources when the main threat is coming from collateral consequences from illegal immigrant men who are here to commit additional criminal conduct against the people of Texas. That's not a major risk from the women illegal immigrants, who are much fewer by proportion anyway. And the Texas court said, no, you can't selectively prosecute like that. I mean, the same courts that are allowing Trump to get railroaded everywhere, that are completely ignoring obvious selective prosecution, suddenly enforce it when it means you have to let illegal immigrants go free, unless you lock up the women too, which is what Texas will now do.
Well, so that was my question. Can you retroactively remedy the selective prosecution by saying,
can't retroactively. This individual defendant, everybody arrested to date, will be freed.
What's mind-blowing, Robert, is the courts prevent Texas from enforcing any meaningful border control given the dereliction of duty from the federal, and then find ways to annul law enforcement that would have the indirect effect of potentially enforcing immigration control, which I guess is the good segue to it is, again, this Court of Appeals, oh my goodness, that said that you got to take out those buoy barriers in the Rio Grande, because not for any immigration reason, they found another incidental law that it might have broken. I don't know what the law is, the Navigability of Waters Act, and they said that this 1,000 year or however long it was, section of buoys with an underwater net tied down by big anchors violates the navigability of the Rio Grande. Now, I didn't look into the details of this. As far as I understood, navigability refers to anything that connects to the ocean. Or cross, not you don't have navigability issues on closed lakes or inlets or bodies of water, rivers. I have to refresh my memory. Where does the Rio Grande end? It goes out to where does it go out to? The Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah, and maybe the Pacific. I haven't looked at how far it goes, to be honest with you.
Hold on, I'll do that right now.
But technically here, I think the court decision is correct. Now, what's interesting is the dissent would have gone further. What the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals said is if you block a navigable waterway, that is governed by federal law under the U.S. Constitution and implementing statutes, and you can only do so if Congress agrees. And because Congress hasn't agreed, you can't do it. But they said as long as you're not blocking the waterway, you can actually use the buoys next to the riverfront. So, you can't actually put some buoys there that can have some deterrent effect on immigration, but you just can't block the whole river. And the dissenting judge was enraged. The dissenting judge said it shouldn't be there at all because the dissenting judge wants free open borders is the reality of it. But one of the judges that was in the majority is a old school, usually, not always, constitutional conservative judge. And the navigable waterway issue was a clear issue because this is a river that borders a foreign country. It does constitutionally fit the classic definition of the kind of navigable waterways Congress has exclusive jurisdiction over. And it clearly was interrupting also the navigable aspect of it. What's interesting is the Mexican president has no problem with it being used as a deterrent for illegal immigration, said that the buoys were just too far out because it was interfering with actual navigation, said don't have a problem if you pull it back closer to the riverfront so it could still have a potential deterrent on illegal immigration, but not interfere with the It won't be as effective a deterrent by where it's going to now be located. But I think constitutionally, the Fifth Circuit probably made the correct decision.
When it comes to waters like that, where is the well, first of all, the Rio Grande seems to start in Colorado. It flows out to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, it's a Gulf of Mexico. Yeah.
Where does the border on that lie between Mexico and the United States? Is it in the middle of the river or?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's always an issue. So where exactly the border is?
Well, because I guess Texas couldn't push it back to the Mexican side, so they're saying pull it back to the Texas side, make it closer on the shore. So it's great, by the way. By the time anyone crossing the river gets there, it might be actually more dangerous for the illegal immigrants. But
they can still use it as a partial deterrent. It just won't be as effective. And again, it's a problem that Texas is only facing because of the completely wayward failure to enforce by the Biden administration.
All right. Well, on the subject of Texas, Robert, segue into Texas suing Pfizer.
Yes, now that's the white pill moment. Thank goodness for Attorney General Paxton, who exposed the corrupt rhinos that run the state of Texas, survived their bogus impeachment effort, and all they were able to do with their previously Paxton suggested on Tucker Carlson and elsewhere that he believed that his intention to go after Pfizer is what precipitated their effort to impeach and remove him and at least delay the ability for him to go after Pfizer. But all it did was delay it because once he won the impeachment vote, first Attorney General, Governor DeSantis promised a grand jury into Pfizer. Unclear if anything ever happened with that grand jury. We know no other action has been taken by the state of Florida. So it sure looks like all talk, no walk, all hat, no cattle. With DeSantis, quite frankly.
Never heard that.
I hope I'm wrong on that, but that's what it looks like. Whereas Paxton's been the real deal all the way through, and he filed suit this week against Pfizer, saying Pfizer violated the rights of the Texas consumers and the Texas citizens because they falsified and lied and committed fraud in how they described the effectiveness of the vaccine. And then when they knew their fraud was getting exposed, they engaged in illicit systemic efforts to censor the disclosure of their previous fraud, ongoing fraud.